Hello and welcome to News9 Plus show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. A 15-year-old Hindu boy named Utsav Mandal was lynched by a mob inside a police station in Bangladesh for blasphemy. A notification has been issued by the Bangladesh President's office asking for the details of the Hindu officers for a list at the President's residence. Several Hindu officials and academics were forced to resign by agitating students and protesters over the last few weeks. Ever since the fall of the Sheikh Hasina-led government on the 5th of August, minorities, including the Hindus, Christians and Ahmadiyas, have faced at least 205 incidents of violent attacks in 52 districts of Bangladesh. In these attacks, at least 11 Hindus have been killed, 15 to 40 temples have been vandalized across the country as well. Now, Professor Mohammed Yunus, the head of the Bangladesh's interim government, has come out and said that the attacks on minority Hindus in Bangladesh are more political than communal, as Hindus have supported the Awami League by and large over the last many years. So that brings us to the question here on the News9 Plus show. Does political support equal violence against the minorities? And joining me to discuss this are Ambassador Veena Sikri, Miti Sanjana, advocate from Bangladesh Supreme Court, and of course, Saleem Samad. Ambassador Sikri, let me begin by asking you, you've been observing this very carefully. Over the last few weeks, we have been chatting with you as well, and you've received a lot of phone calls and messages from your friends in Bangladesh about these attacks, about the fear psychosis. One is denial, but how much of a denial will there be? Of course, there is testimony and evidence of attacks against temples, killings, even lynching, this video getting viral over the last 48 hours. What do you make of the latest statement by the interim government chief?
Well, I think that it is very surprising to hear Professor Mohammed Yunus make such a statement, because it's almost like justifying the violence.
True.
And this is why it is worrying, because he's justifying it as though if you think that somebody is politically not voted for you, then you're all correct to do violence against that person. Now, that is absolutely no justification under any circumstances, more particularly in a constitutional democracy like Bangladesh. They have a constitution, they have political parties, and more particularly from a person like Professor Mohammed Yunus, who has been involved at the grassroots level with people from all religions, with women entrepreneurs, with so many people from different walks of life, that we know that the only thing to do is to condemn violence when it happens and to take action against those who are committing the violence, and not to blame those on whom the violence is being perpetrated as though it's somehow their fault that somebody is committing violence on them. I think in any civilized society, this cannot be accepted. And I'm really surprised to see this justification being given as though political violence is all right. It doesn't matter who's the victim, doesn't matter. It's political, so it's all right. I would say that this is the very reason why this interim government is justifying its existence. There is no constitutional provision for the interim government. There is no legal position for the interim government. But they are justifying their position that, the things that were happening earlier were non-democratic. They were not allowing free elections. They were not allowing people to express their views. And now they're doing the same things themselves. In fact, leading editors have written in their newspapers in Bangladesh that why is the present interim government doing exactly what they have been accusing the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government of doing. And this is why I cannot understand this response to the horrible, horrific violence that is being perpetrated against the minorities. I'm very glad that the Hindu minorities and other minorities made a strong stand and had a demonstration in Dhaka, in Shahbag Square, where they said, no, this is our country too, we are going to stay. But that has not ended the violence against them. The justification seemed to have increased. And this is a very recent interview given by Professor Mohammed Yunus, which seems to add further justification, that as though since it's not communal, so it's something else, it's political, so it's justified. And it's going on and on. And the initial physical violence against the Hindu minorities are now being converted into a violence on their economic livelihoods. Professors have been forced to resign. Hindu teachers have been forced to give up their jobs in schools. Businesses have been taken over. Shops have been occupied. So much of this is not coming in the media at all, but it's happening. Every day it is happening. And, some are being offered money, take this money and go. That kind of situation. I don't know why this is happening in Bangladesh. And now we've seen this letter which has been issued by the president's office, and we know that Suhas Chakma has made a complaint to the UN Special Rapporteur of 3 committees. Saying that why is this happening, that you're racially profiling just the Hindus. In Bangladesh, there's a combined group who fight for a secular Bangladesh. They're the Hindus, the Christians, and the Buddhists. And all these groups are together, but this letter is only for the Hindus. And now, as if in excuse for it, different excuses are coming up. Somebody says it's because of the bonus, somebody says it's because of Durga Puja, somebody says it's a clerical error. So we don't know why this is happening. And as though such letters being issued last year, if it's for bonus, if it's for Durga Puja, then similar letters must have issued in previous years as well. Did that happen? There is no evidence that any such letter was found or referred to in previous years. So we are really worried about it because we do not expect this.
Fair
a
enough.
country which has Muslim as a pillar of their constitution.
It almost seems like that the interim government in Bangladesh is looking the other way. They're not just mute spectators. They're looking the other way, knowing very well that, there are attacks happening against the minorities. And the biggest question right now, that who is the savior of the Bangladeshi Hindus now? If not the interim government, if not Mohammad Yunus, who else? Saleem Samad, I'm sure you have a counter to this. You heard Ambassador Sikri. You heard, what India really is monitoring very closely right now. Even if there is no communal angle to this, is it justified to give such kind of a justification that yes, in this political color, in this kind of a revenge, in this kind of Hindus being seen supporting Awami League and Sheikh Hasina, so it's justified?
Thank you for having me. It is definitely have to be condemned. And I understand that Professor Yunus, the chief advisor of the interim government, has also equally condemned. The word justification doesn't apply to his statement. He had already met the Hindu leaders several times, and of course the other religious leaders, and he had mentioned that they are citizens of Bangladesh. You cannot compartmentalize that I am a Hindu, so if you are Hindu, then there is no Hindu court to go. So there's only one court, there is one administration, and one government.
Miti, I want to come to you. And before I come to you, just briefly for 30 seconds, I want to tell the viewers, we have a timeline. There's a timeline in my hands. On August 14th, the Bangladesh's Yunus government has acknowledged that attacks against Hindus were happening and they will, in fact, take action. Later, a few days later, we had Mohammad Yunus meet the Hindu students over the attacks, the minorities, and also visit the Dakeshwari temple. And that was a statement, a symbolic gesture. Later, we had Mohammad Yunus's Hindu outreach in Bangladesh after days of communal violence. And finally, yesterday in an interview with PTI, Bangladesh's interim government chief says attacks on Hindus in Bangladesh is exaggerated. What do you make of this, Miti? How is the situation of the minorities right now? And what do you think that the interim government really needs to do?
Well, actually, we condemn each and every attack, any kind of violence in Bangladesh. However, at the same time, you have to, remember that Bangladesh constitutionally is a secular country, and all the religious minorities and communities, all the religious communities, they live together in peaceful coexistence, and they have been so since the beginning of the time. For example, during Eid, Durga Puja, Buddha Purnima, Christmas. So we all celebrate and observe these religious festivities with the entire nation. The whole population of Bangladesh, they celebrate this religious festivities. So you see, and at the same time, it's a Muslim majority country. 90% of the population of our country is Muslim. However, I think the achievement of Bangladesh has to be praised. During the revolution and the political shift, our Muslim brothers, they were safeguarding the Hindu communities, and all night they were just protecting the Hindu temples in Bangladesh, because there were some rumors and there were many fake news, false informations about these communal attacks. However, none of these attacks are these are motivated by any kind of communal issues. Rather, these all are motivated by political violences. And most of the attacks, those actually took place. 99% people who were attacked, 99% of them are Muslim. Maybe only not even 1%, those
Fair
who
enough.
were.
Fair enough, Miti.
that.
Even if it's one person, does it justify political violence? And even if violence has happened, has single person been arrested for killing, for the threats issued to Hindus and the houses and the businesses houses that have been burnt completely?
As I'm saying, that these are not communal attacks. Rather, they were.
No, even if it is political,
by
is it justified? And what action is being taken?
goals. No, it cannot justify the citizen of Bangladesh. They cannot, they have to abide by the law. So even if they were tortured, even if they were, the political leaders, the political, goons, they were looted. They were, inflicting different kind of tortures on these people since very, very long time. So, but of course they cannot. They have to abide by law, and the due course of.
But why isn't the interim government taking any action? I mean, they are assuring verbally in media that we'll take action, but no action is being seen. Instead, now they're taking a back step and saying that this is exaggeration. It happened in the political agitation as it happens, but no action at all.
Well, you see, this is a full-on revolution, and after revolution, there are many players there in field, and there are many stakeholders. There are different vested groups who are playing in the field. And we are still in a very unstable situation. Our economic condition is very, very bad. We have $1 billion of loans. There are like acute reserve crisis, acute dollar crisis, and the law enforcement agencies, they were not in the field because they were torturing the general people, and they were torturing the students. They were killing students. So after that, I mean, they could not face the general people. So general people, that's a full-on revolution. So
well, even if it is a so-called revolution, even if, there's a peaceful agitation, and even if there is violence against Awami League or BNP or anybody else, there needs to be a law. Even if police and paramilitary were not there, they are there now. Why there's no action? Anyways, let me go across to Saleem Samad. He's back with us. Mr. Samad, you were making your point. Please continue.
Well, I was trying to explain that this is definitely has to be condemned. And Professor Yunus had already made an open appeal, not only to the Hindu leaders, but the Hindu leaders have met him thrice. And he had already said that you cannot compartmentalize the country into 3 or 4 or 5, because you cannot say, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Muslim, I'm a blah, and this. They are citizens of this country. So that has definitely given a secular platform for others to participate. But when you say justifying, that's a very harsh word, because justifying is nothing to do with lynching or attack on the Hindus. And why you are talking only about Hindus? The others are also being, even a secular group like me, are attacked, or we are being verbally abused for the whole entire. And first of all, it's very interesting that Madam Ambassador Veena Sikri was in Bangladesh during when Khaleda Zia came to power in 2001. And of course, few years she was here. And she has seen that now in 2001, when Khaleda Zia came to power, there was a massive riot all over the Bangladesh. We are talking about 26 districts, it was 64 districts. There was a massive riot, the vandalism, desecration of temples, and everything. And let me explain. Then after when Sheikh Hasina came to power, she had instituted a commission, and the commissions published 3 volumes of books, and nothing has happened. Nothing has happened in the 15 years. Not a single perpetrator was arrested. Not a single perpetrator has listened to the music of justice. So this has also happened. So the perpetrators are always given a sort of like that they can harm the Hindus, they can harm the Christians, the Adivasis. You just name even the secularists, the bloggers, for example. Nothing had happened. No regime has taken a single step to make sure that they are punished. So this is one major issue. And of course, as my colleague in Dhaka has also mentioned, that there was an absence of police. The police has still not been able to regroup, because the majority of the police, 60% of the police has vanished. So obviously it's left with only few of the military. And the lynching, there is no law in the Bangladesh to file a case on blasphemy. But surprisingly, you may not agree with me, but the blasphemy has been included in the Digital Security Act by Sheikh Hasina herself. And all the laws, all the Muslims, radicalized Muslims, had filed hundreds of cases against the Hindus. None of them they were not stopped by the Sheikh Hasina regime. Similarly, had happened in Khaleda Zia. All the begums, they also did whatever they wanted to do against the religious minorities and other dissidents and opposition. So this cyber crime law has been applied for against the Hindus,
May I
against
come
the
in here?
Christians, the Adivasis. Yes, please.
May I come in here? Sir, firstly, I'll correct you. You know, at the very beginning of my broadcast, I mentioned Hindus, Christians and Ahmadiyas. I did not talk only about Hindus. This is a wrong perception that you have, that we are talking about only Hindus. In the context of Pakistan, where, you know, we have a law called CAA and we give, you know, a status of citizenship to people from Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan, the minorities, that includes Hindus, Christians, Parsis, Jains, Buddhists, everybody else. We are not talking about only Hindus. We are not a Hindu nation, we are a secular nation, and India is an example of that. But sir, let me complete. I didn't interrupt you at all. You had requested and I did not. I respected you, sir. The other part is that continuously you've been saying that Khaleda Zia and you know, the Awami League leader Sheikh Hasina has been doing the same. In a way, you're trying to say that Muhammad Yunus is also doing the same, hence it is justified completely. Muhammad Yunus is completely silent over the persecution, the killing of Hindus and the temples being destroyed, hence we should look the other way. How does it justify that even if Muhammad Yunus is going on the same path of Sheikh Hasina and Khaleda Zia, he is appeasing the Islamist forces, he is appeasing the Jamaat and the BNP, he is appeasing those elements who are against the minorities. Ambassador Sikri, you heard him, he gave you a very valid, you know, counter, he has an opinion, we respect that, but do you agree the continuous justification, because the world is looking towards Muhammad Yunus, he has to restore democracy. Will democracy be restored by killing and completely eradicating the minorities of Bangladesh?
Not at all. I don't agree at all with what Shri Saleem Samad has said, because it is a complete justification. He says, look, Begum Khaleda Zia was doing it and Ambassador Veena Sikri knows about it. Look, Sheikh Hasina was doing it and Ambassador Sikri knows about it. So now when Professor Muhammad Yunus is doing it, then I'm supposed to do what? I'm supposed to stay quiet again? We were raising it in 2001 when it happened under Khaleda Zia. We have been raising it under Sheikh Hasina, and we are raising it now. So what I'm saying is that there does not seem to be any difference between the regimes of Begum Khaleda Zia, Sheikh Hasina, and now Professor Muhammad Yunus. But this is supposed to be the government with a difference. This is supposed to be the government that has come in to end what was being described as the unfair, unjust, undemocratic actions of the previous regimes. But I don't see that happening. And in fact, a judicial inquiry has been ordered for all the students who have lost their lives, but no judicial inquiry has been ordered for the minorities, for the Hindus, the Buddhists, the Christians who have lost their lives, who have lost their businesses. Look at the way in which Utsav Mandal was lynched. All that we are hearing was that there is no provision in the Bangladesh penal code for this. I mean, gosh, but then you're talking about a new constitution, a new law. Every time we are coming up against the blank wall of justification. That it's okay, just forget about it. It's happened, it's okay. But when it comes to students, when it comes to somebody else, then there is great horror being expressed. That look at this, look what's happened to students. And we know that as many students as policemen were also killed. In fact, your former Home Advisor, Brigadier Sheikh Hussain, had spoken about this. That policemen have been shot dead, 7.62 millimeter bullets have been used, which are not available with the police. So obviously some other people were there with these weapons who were killing the policemen. So I think all these facts are well known, and I would request that in the interest of having, of what Professor Muhammad Yunus is saying, and what the people of Bangladesh are in many ways accepting, but also worrying that why is the same thing happen when we are expecting something different from Professor Muhammad Yunus? Why is it that the same thing is happening again? The lynching of Utsav Mandal, even the army is being implicated in that. There are so many messages on that about that. But there's no mention about that. What is it? So as you're saying, it seems to be somebody else who is in control. Is it the Islamists? Is it the Jamaat-e-Islami who is giving the orders, who is saying that this has to happen? And is it that everybody else is helpless in that, in front of that? So we really are worried about what is happening, and we do know that we have, one of our groups, Mr. Chakma, has made a complaint to the UN Special Rapporteur on this. That
Right.
Why is it that kind of racial profiling is going on, and all vague excuses are being given to that? So we would like that if that in Bangladesh, a very important neighbor for India, we have said we are going to work with the government of the day, we are going to work with Professor Mohammed Yunus, but we need to understand what is going on, and we need to understand why these attacks against minorities and the attacks on the economic livelihood, the forced dismissal of professors. Nobody's talking about that. In earlier days, even one action, say under the Digital Security Act, of which Sheikh Hasina's government had been condemned for, even one incident was discussed for days in the newspapers. That look, this happened, that happened, this policeman has said that.
Fair enough.
Today, nothing on all these things. There is nothing in the newspapers, and we're only hearing about it through other sources because the newspapers are not even writing about it. And we're really worried as to what is happening in Bangladesh, which is supposed to, you describe it as a second liberation. But what is this a second liberation from?
All right, fair enough. I'm running out of time, but I want to give the last, comment to Saleem Samad. I don't want him to be upset that he did not get the equal opportunity. But Mr. Samad, I have last 30 seconds. I have a point blank question to you. You are a fierce secular person in Bangladesh. The way forward for Mohammed Yunus, do you think that he will continue and have a secular government in Bangladesh, or do you think under the garb of Mohammed Yunus, under the garb of the interim government, it is the Islamist, it is the anti-social elements who are gaining control?
Thank you again. I was not justifying what was happening in Bangladesh, especially on the religious groups and minorities or religious groups. First of all, it is very important that Professor Yunus is definitely reading the writings on the walls of the Bangladesh, especially on the walls in Dhaka, that the students who had organized this monsoon revolution is very much a secular, and if you look into the walls of the Dhaka city, you will find hundreds of graffitis which are mentioning about having a peaceful year of all the religious minorities. Of course, the religious minorities as the Christians, the Hindus, Buddhists, and of course, nobody has mentioned about Ahmadis except you and me. But yes, the Ahmadis have also been persecuted since Bangladesh was independent. And of course, it is a long legacy of persecution. This has never stopped from 1972. That is very unfortunate. And that Professor Yunus has to take steps to ensure that the secularism is taking its shape and the pillars are being protected. And protected, I'm talking about the religious freedom. This has to be protected. And of course, the constitution that has to be rewritten or redrafted or whatever. So that will ensure that democracy and secularism goes side by side.
Fair enough. Saleem Samad, Ambassador Veena Sikri, thank you very much for your valuable inputs. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. It's certainly ball in the court of Mohammed Yunus. We'll have to wait and watch how, secularism is restored, minorities are protected, or will Mohammed Yunus continue to justify the violence and the kind of massacres against the Hindus that are continuing right now in Bangladesh. To quote Jagmeet Singh, leader of the New Democratic Party, he ripped up the supply and confidence agreement with Trudeau's Liberal government. Now, Jagmeet Singh's NDP has been supporting Justin Trudeau's minority Liberal government in Canada since 2022. And in a shocking move, he withdrew his support on 5th of September. Jagmeet Singh is also known in India for his support of Khalistan. He's known to patronize Khalistani elements on the Canadian soil. General elections in Canada are to be held on October 2025. But with NDP withdrawing its support, is Justin Trudeau's government set to fall? Joining me to discuss this are journalist Sameer Kaushal, joining us from Canada, and Ambassador Manju Seth, former Indian diplomat and distinguished fellow, Forum for Global Studies. Sameer, good to see you. Thanks for joining us here. I want to begin by asking you, how do you see these developments really? Jagmeet Singh, coming out in that video statements on social media and withdrawing that agreement that he had with the Liberal government. Is this mere posturing, or do we see, when the Parliament meets later this month, some kind of a no-confidence vote?
Thank you so much, Aditya, for taking me in. In the fall, our House of Commons session going to start. And Mr. Jagmeet Singh, he just wants to look tough for now as far as this agreement is concerned. This was just an agreement. He's not saying confidently or openly that whether he's having a confidence in the government or not. It is just, some kind of word salad right now that he is ripping off the agreement, supply and agreement. And I don't think that for now there's going to be any kind of issues because as far as Justin Trudeau's popularity is concerned, Justin Trudeau's image right now is like eclipsed politician in Canada. Nobody wants to go closer to him, and especially with the latest polls from last 1.5 years. His polling is down. His popularity is plummeting so low. And as far as the latest polling is concerned, his party, according to the polls, coming at number 4, which is behind the NDP. So NDP don't want to take chance right now, and they want to show them as federal, official opposition in the next election. But as far as Mr. Jagmeet Singh's this decision is concerned, as you said, that whether there's going to be any kind of threat to the Liberal government at this time. Jagmeet Singh is a smart politician. He is just, right now showing to the Canadians that he is not supporting the government in one way, that is through the agreement. But on the other hand, he categorically said this, that we're going to look in the coming fall session that on certain policies or certain motions, whether the NDP is going to, support them or not. So he's not saying that we're not going to support. He's not saying that we're going to bring a non-confidence motion for the government. Right. So he is playing very smart. He is saving his skin as well. Though there are certain, accusations by the official opposition leader, Mr. Pierre Poilievre, who is a federal conservative leader. He, at so many occasions, he said that Mr. Jagmeet Singh, why he's supporting Justin Trudeau's Liberal government, because he wants to save his pension. So those kind of accusations Jagmeet Singh is facing, as well as Jagmeet's inner party circles are not very happy that Jagmeet is supporting Liberal government right now, which is not giving any kind of good message, or not going in a right direction, which can help the Canadians. Canadians are going through, Aditya, so many crises right now.
Samir, I want to hold you there, because I want to return to you with a question on how strong the Conservatives are. And the kind of carbon tax debate that's happening right now, and what this means for India, really, if the Conservatives really form the government next. But Ambassador Manju Seth, let me bring you in. How do you see this development? Over the last 1 year, I've noticed these debates that have been happening inside the House of Commons, but also outside, where the main leader of the opposition has attacked Justin Trudeau government on carbon tax, on housing, on several other issues that actually a part of daily life of Canadians. And I have friends in Canada who have been upset with the economy really taking a somersault in Canada. So how do you see these developments right now, the NDP taking back support? Of course, Samir says that this is merely a posturing, a smart gimmick, if I may say so. But is it increasingly clear that Justin Trudeau perhaps is there only for a few weeks or months and maybe will not return?
There is this posturing by Jagmeet Singh, of course, that, because he feels that his position is a bit compromised if the elections take place, the next election, whenever they take place, though they are due only next year, but we don't know how things will pan out. And as very rightly said by Samir, this appears to be an attempt to put pressure on the Trudeau government, and to say that nothing is being done for the people. Because inflation and carbon tax and a lot of other issues, climate change and all this is affecting people, and inflation, housing crisis. I think there are a lot of issues which are affecting the Canadian people, the general people, and they don't want the common people, and they don't really, the support for Trudeau has steadily decreased. And as you very rightly said, his party is now at the 4th position. But whether the government will fall or elections will be held, I think this at the moment is up in the air. And Jagmeet Singh has also said it's not that he's withdrawing support. It was an automatic support that he's not going to now, that has been withdrawn. Mm-hmm. And on issue, there will be issue-based, support, as he put it. So on certain issues, he might support. So we don't, but the other, Conservatives are calling for a confidence motion. We don't know how Jagmeet Singh will, act at that point of time, whether he will support the Trudeau government in a confidence motion, or he will not. We don't know. And of course, it is now becoming a question of survival for the Trudeau government. And he is reaching out to other conservatives and to not others, but to conservative parties and to other parties in the opposition. But how it pans out remains unclear at the moment. But definitely, as far as India is concerned, with Jagmeet Singh, having his pro-Khalistani inclinations and support, and being very, vocal on all this, I think for us, it is, and the pressure he was able to put on the Trudeau government every time India raised the issue of putting a lid on pro-Khalistani activities, including as we saw, attacking the Indian diplomats and putting on all kinds of
Right.
So he was able to put or to pressurize, I should say, or to influence the Canadian government not to take the action that should have been taken to curb these elements.
Fair enough. Samir, let me get you on the leader of the opposition, Pay Poliver. And how he's been taking Justin Trudeau to the cleaners, really, with his statements, his press conference, his statements inside the parliament and outside. What are the key issues? Because I've been speaking to a lot of Canadians, and in India, of course, there's a lot of sentiment against Khalistan, but it doesn't seem like that Khalistan is really an issue back there in domestic politics. How would you see the elections pan out if it really happens in October 2025? Because some polls really say that 60 to 70% the Conservatives are strong of actually returning to power after years.
I think there are 3 or 4 things which we should consider when we are looking at Canadian elections. Canadian elections right now, I think it's likely going to be early than the scheduled time, and there are certain reasons for that. The first reason is the unpopularity of Mr. Justin Trudeau, for sure. The second thing, we can say there is undercurrent within the party, within the Liberal Party, that right now Mr. Justin Trudeau's so-called eclipsed personality bring it down to the 4th level, and moreover, there are certain issues. So if we talk about the drug overdose issue, there was a report in Telegraph, a news organization, where they quoted that Vancouver is the world's fentanyl capital for the overdose deaths. And as far as the public safety is concerned, Interpol, they gave their report where they mentioned that Toronto is the auto theft capital in the world. So, and as far as the housing is concerned, we have less houses, and we are bringing more and more people from different countries for different reasons. And government was first boasting this thing that we are so welcoming and we want every year 500,000 new Canadians in our country. And though not just only 500,000, they were giving visas to approximately more than 800,000 international students, including the temporary foreign workers. So it was altogether more than 1 million people were coming in a year, though we were not having all the facilities over here. Our road infrastructure, our educational infrastructure, our health infrastructure. If you look at different provinces, the wait time is too high. That approximate wait time, if I tell you in my province, British Columbia, in hospitals, it is approximately 5 to 8 hours wait time to look for a physician or for a doctor. Wow. So many people say, yeah, absolutely. I mean, healthcare is broken right now. Housing is broken. As far as the affordability is concerned, you will be surprised that we are a developed country. And there's a Stats Canada's report that approximately 2 million people, that is 20 lakh people, those who are right now dependent on food banks. Let me just give you one more stat. We have a Gurudwara, that is the Gurudwara Dukh Nivaran in Surrey, British Columbia. Surrey is a densely populated area with the South Asian community, especially with the Punjabi people. That particular Gurudwara cater 19,000 families every month. They give the donations or the food donations to 19,000 families. And there's another network called the Surrey Food Bank. They gave the food donation to 23,000 families. So if in one city there are approximately more than 40,000 families are dependent on food banks, and altogether 2 million people are, or 2 million Canadians are dependent on food banks. So we can better judge the youngsters, Gen Zs. They already lose hope that whether they're going to have a house in their future in Canada. The crime rate is so high. As I mentioned, the auto theft is too high. And the Toronto police, they give the statement that leave your car fobs in front of your door, so no antisocial element should come to your home and rob you. There are certain incidents happened with the trucking industry, especially with the South Asian community, Punjabi community, where they received the reports of extortion calls, and their houses have been shot. They have been targeted through some, threatening phone calls. And it's not just here. There are youngsters, those who are going into gangs and drugs, and especially, as I said, the Vancouver, the West Coast, the British Columbia's biggest, city. Even the British Columbia itself, every day there are more than 6 people are dying because of the overdose, the fentanyl.
Well, Sameer, these are eye-opening details, really. I wish I had more time right now, but I'm running out of time on this debate. But we'll have you again. These are certainly shocking details, somehow not being reflected as much in the Canadian or the international media, something that the people ought to know about. They need to know what's happening. The gangland violence, the drug addiction, women not feeling safe in some areas. Of course, you mentioned about the healthcare and infrastructure crisis as well. My friend, in fact, in Canada went to a hospital in emergency at 6 a.m. and only managed to get admission at midnight. So that perhaps gives you a reality check of what's happening really in Canada. But Ambassador Manju Seth and Sameer Kaushal, thank you very much for joining us. We'll have you again in the run-up to more political developments in Canada.